So in the industrial sector, 2026 is all about navigating volatility. The 2020s as a whole is much more volatile than prior decades, but it really has gone to new levels now, whether it's the technology shifts and AI and what that's doing, both to how your products and services are delivered, but are you exposed to the gains and the losses that it's created? Also to the energy supply situation and what's happening there. Maybe more so than some other sectors, the industrials need to consider that. They have a lot of energy inputs and downstream ramifications. And so those are really on people's minds. The long-term shift has been playing out for several years. So you can go back to the inflationary spikes in the early 2020s, where we started advising our clients and anyone that volatility was going to be here and it wasn't going to go away, that we were entering a more volatile time than the stability of the 2010s, and companies needed to be agile in their commercial strategies. So whether that's their route to markets, whether it's their product development, or whether it's their pricing strategies, just being prepared for a more dynamic environment was a focus we've been talking about for several years. That remains acute, and we've seen people put in the work over the last several years to get prepared, and they have more options available to them today. And so being able to help them execute on that optionality has been a core focus of 2026. So agility started to enter the mind right around 2021, 2022, when the inflationary shocks happened and then the supply chain shocks occurred. And companies realized that even if they wanted to adjust their approaches, they couldn't. Whether it was the legal contracts, whether it was their back-end systems were constrained, they were very slow to react. And so that was an era when we started to work on people's agility and that ability to go from an idea or desire to make a change to actually realizing the change in the market. Flash forward to today, many of those systems that were built in response to that inflationary and supply shock are now being used to navigate what's happening, whether it's the supply-demand imbalances that AI is creating or the energy situation that's coming out of the Middle East. When people think of AI, they think of the technology, they think about job displacement, they think about what it's going to enable them to do. What very few people think about is the huge amount of back-end infrastructure that's required to make that happen. When you ask one of these models to solve a quick problem for you, it has a incredibly high energy appetite that has downstream effects on power handling, energy itself, power generation, who controls it, and how does it get from A to B. And so for the industrial sector, a lot of the exposure is whether it's the engineers who are designing the facilities that are now being used to power this technology, or the actual physical goods that are needed to build the hyperscale infrastructure to bring it into our everyday lives. That's where there's some fascinating things happening in the industrial space. So a lot of people aren't necessarily paying attention to that behind the scenes industrial need to bring AI to life. But that's what's driving so many great questions in the boardroom of what's our exposure? Is there something that we can do to capitalize on this constraint and bring new products to market? Or are we going to face a real risk because we can't move fast enough? If you can keep up with the pace needed to build the racks, pour the cement, come up with the transformers and the power handling equipment, the fuel backup systems, everything else that's required when it comes to building out this unprecedented level of infrastructure, there's a lot of winners that are taking place in the industrial space. But we're certainly seeing AI get implemented in our client base. In the industrial sector, people are finding that whether it's customer service and experiential things that can be solved faster and give a better product experience to somebody through AI, that's certainly come to life. We're now in 26 seeing it transition into the sales roles. So we are seeing AI getting implemented and being supportive of business development and growth now. And that's usually coming through the sales function. We are seeing it go from a technology novelty into a real value adder for industrial companies, mostly in how they're interacting with their customers. Turbulent, acceptance, and offense. So I'm seeing industrial companies realize there's an unprecedented level of turbulence, but they're accepting it. They're not waiting. They're going on offense and they're making moves that we didn't see happen last time there was big disruptions. They're better prepared now to capitalize on it. And I think those three together are some of the reasons you're seeing the industrial sector perform well in a lot of places around the world, despite all the turbulent nature that's taking place.